Okay, our next interview here is with Phil Shriver, and we're going to ask Phil to give us a little bit about history about himself and how things have changed over the past few years here in Willie County. So, Phil, go ahead and start in.
Do I now?
Go ahead.
Well, what kind of a question you want now?
Well, tell us about yourself. Tell us about yourself, where you were born and different places you lived and how some of the things about your family.
Well, I was born in 1921, right in the same bedroom that I live in. The farm there that I own at the present time has been in our family since 1882. There's quite a bit of history tied fast to these farms that I have. This history is not documented. It's only hearsay from mouth to mouth. My niece has tried to prove some of it, but she can't find it either. You ask here how my family got here. My family got here in 1882. They came from Canton, Ohio. They came on the Nickel Plate Railroad on a train, passenger freight train. They had their livestock in a cattle car, horses and cattle. They had their feed, their machinery, what little they had at that time, in another car, hay and grain, and they came in the passenger car. While on the way, there was a fella got real buddy. That's my grandpa, great-grandpa. He got telling some jokes, laughing, patting my grandpa on the shoulder, this and that and the other. He happened to work his way down to my grandpa's leg, where he found a .25 caliber Derringer. From then on, he never seen the man. From then on. So they said that .25 Derringer saved the farms. If you know what a Derringer is, see, that's a little bit different than a regular pistol or revolver. But anyhow, he said that's what saved the farms. Now the farms there is right at the corner of where they used to call the Battle of Corn Patch. Now we have found a lot of arrowheads and so on and so forth, and I have give a lot of them away. But they say, the word of mouth says there's supposed to be a murdered man buried in my front yard. I have no way of proving it. This is all hearsay. I've had people try to prove it, and they can't, so far. So then you go back to my woods, and there's supposed to be a horse thief cave, where they used to steal horses and lead them down the creek, where they wouldn't leave any tracks. They keep them in there for a couple of days till things settle down, take them and sell them. The front of the cave has caved in. The funny part of it is, of course, I've worked with Boy Scouts. I've had two bunch of Boy Scouts who are going to go back there and dig the cave out, but they didn't dig very long. I had that backhoe and I thought about digging into it. You can't. DNR won't let you. Oh no, you may own that creek. You pay taxes on that creek, but you can't even break the bank down. And I asked him, what happens if a tree falls in there? Oh, he says that we got men over in Ohio that will come over here and cut it up and throw it on the bank. I said, I want to see them men. I said, I got trees back there, there's 4 or 5 across the stump. One of them falls in the river, I want to see you cut that thing out and throw it on the bank. He didn't answer me. So there was no way I could dig in there. So there again, I don't know much about it.
Where did you go to school?
South Whitley High School.
And did you have to walk? And tell us a little about your first school.
And they had a buggy or a carriage or whatever you want to call that team of horses, they come down the Whitley Road, they went through up to, I don't know how to tell you. Did you know where Kelsey used to live up there? Yep. They went up in there, but at that time, from there in the Whitley. That was the only bus or whatever you want to call it that went into South Whitley. But they had to go down, they wouldn't cross the railroad track west of my house, the old Pennsylvania, down there about 15, 20 rod. They wouldn't take a team of horses across the railroad track. They had to walk down there to get in the school bus. I don't know why they wouldn't take them across the track, but they wouldn't. And they had an old coal stove in there that had a fire in there, and that is a live fire. And then after that, the school buses, the heat wasn't worth much. The heat in the one bus was nothing but the exhaust pipes from the motor. It came up, run the full length of the bus under the seat and out the back end. And but I got a story I'll tell you about that one of them buses too. This was way up there, well, quite a ways up there on Whitley Road, and the old bus stopped. The rear end went out of it. Well, my brother drove school bus. 1 year was all I ever rode with another bus driver. I had 2 brothers, and they drove buses all. So he called in, they sent a wrecker out. But the bus is about half load of kids. The wrecker picked up the back end of the school bus. Now I'm talking kids and all. Picked up the back end, and of course he was headed the other way. He goes down to the neighbor's drive. He pulls up and he backs the school bus back in that driveway, and he ran the boom of the wrecker through the back door. Broke the glass out. Now remember, all those kids was in there, hanging on the wrecker, and we headed for school. That's the way we got to school. Stop and think of what would happen now if the school bus driver would do something like that. They didn't say a word to my brother. It's all right, he got the kids to school. Huh?
That first school you talked about with the stove, was that a one-room school? How many?
Oh, no. That was out there in South Whitley on that same block where Doc Shepard had his office in the corner. Where Doc Shepard's house sat, we used to have a hand-over-hand stuffed playground out there. And that was the big old brick schoolhouse, and it had basement and 2 stories high, and then kind of a cupola up above that. No, it was pretty good sized brick building. Uh-huh.
What were some of the first stores and businesses you remember there in South Whitley that probably aren't there anymore? Where did you go buy your groceries and places like that of business?
Oh, I got pictures of them. I didn't know he was innocent and anything like that. I've got a whole bunch of pictures from there. It showed having a auction selling horses right in the middle of the main street there in South Valley. The picture shows them. Shows them selling horses. And the old stores, drugstores, and that stuff. Yeah, I've got a bunch of those pictures there at home. I took them, I think, up here one time at the Columbus City Post, and I don't think they ever used any of them. I don't know where they come from. There's about a half a dozen of them or more. And, oh yeah, we used to buy chewing gum, penny package, 5 sticks of chewing gum for a nickel, and stuff like that. Gasoline. I can remember when my dad would buy 5 gallons of gasoline, they'd give him a gallon of diesel fuel because they see diesel fuel is a byproduct of gasoline, and they didn't know what to do with all of that diesel fuel, and they threw it away. They'd give you 5 gallons of it, go out and burn trash. And it was the same way. See, gasoline was still a byproduct of kerosene. And even gasoline, never gave it away because kerosene is all they wanted for lights, the old kerosene lamps. Yes, I've got them big kerosene light in the house, big flowers on it, standing that high, kerosene. That's what we helped the house with. And you talk about when we got our lights, well, we got it when the RMC went through. I don't just what year that was, but that's when we got our electricity at that time. And of course, that was back there when there wasn't too much money around. And Dad had the house wired, and we had one light bulb hanging in the center of each room. And that was our lights, yeah. Radio, yeah, we had radio, but batteries all we had. And there again, you conserved your money. My dad would buy new batteries in the fall of the year, dry cell. See, I think it took 2 dry cells and a black cell, I think, if I remember right. And he'd buy them dry cells and that. And he says, that's it. Whenever they run down, that's it. For the winter. And they'd buy another set for the next winter. That's all right. Summertime, we didn't have no radio because he wasn't buying batteries. Hey, you could buy a pair of shoes for 50 cents. I mean, a regular work shoe for 50 cents. How was you going to spend $1 or $2 on an old battery to listen to? It just made sense. That's all it was to it. You had to stretch your money.
What was the price of gasoline when you bought your first automobile?
I really couldn't tell you. Now I think it was only about a nickel or something like that. I know you used to get five. When I was chasing around Dayton, we could get 5 gallons for $1 at that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first automobile that you?
Mine?
Yes.
Well, my first one that I had was an Oldsmobile, and that was right after World War II, because, well, I drove Dad's all that, and hey, yeah, I remember the old Model Ts that would jack them up and put them on blocks in the wintertime, drain the radiator and took the battery out, took it in, let her set turtle spring. Oh yeah, I remember that.
What did your first automobile cost? What was the cost of your first automobile?
Well, my first pickup truck I bought, I think I gave $700 for it. But that was way, way later than that. I think it's something like $400 or $500 or something. I never bought one of those, but I remember the Model Ts. Yes, I drove an old Model T. Yeah, 3 pedals. And you remember them, 3 pedals. One for forward, one for reverse, and one for a brake. Oh yeah.
Do you remember when you got indoor plumbing, when you had your...
Yep, as soon as the war was over.
Tell us a little bit, how'd that change your life?
Sure made a big difference, I'll tell you on that. Yeah. The outhouse there, the outhouse wasn't too bad in the summertime, but boy, it was a pistol in the wintertime when it was cold.
Yeah, that's so.
Well, you wouldn't believe it. Now, the change is now I've got a hydrospa in the bed in the bathroom. I've got tanning lights in the bathroom. I think the car kind of brought the bathroom up to date.
Yeah.
How many people has hydrospa and that in their rooms?
Not many.
I've got them. Yep.
Yeah.
That house has been remodeled about 3 times. It was built in 1907. And I've got pictures of building the house too. Now on the one farm, that house there burnt down. This was before the turn of the century. And they told me that the neighbors came in and they built a new house in 2 days.
That's pretty fast.
Now, I don't imagine a lot of the trim workmanship. I don't know, but I can't see them getting a trim and all of that in there in 2 days. But anyhow, that would be right across the road there from where, right beside the RMC substation there. It's sitting on the ground right practically where the house sat.
You talked about getting electricity. How electricity changed your life on the farm and in the home? How electricity changed how you did things?
Well, right at the very start, it didn't change too much because that was in the Depression years, and you didn't buy a whole lot. You know what I mean? There wasn't no money floating around at that time. But yes, it's changed your life, just like I said about the spar and all that. You couldn't have nothing like that, you know what I mean, without your electricity. And the telephone, yes, we had a telephone. I don't know anymore how much it cost, but I know what happened. My dad said it was too much, and he was going to have the telephone taken out. And my mom says, "You've got kids. You're not going to take the telephone out while them kids get sick." So Dad didn't take the telephone out. The telephone stays now. I can remember that.
Yeah. Did you have a party line?
Yeah. I'll ring with two shorts and a long. Yeah, there's a party line.
Well, what changes have you seen in your lifetime that had the biggest impact on Whitley County? What changes have you seen in your life here that had the biggest impact?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I've never been into too much. I've helped out in the 4-H, yes. And I bought, when I was in the poultry deal, I bought chickens off the kids, you know what I mean, give them to them so they could barbecue them, and not too much like that. I can remember one time when I was going to buy Jane Moore to buy a new tractor. I can remember this, and I talking to Jane, ordering a tractor, and I told him, I said, "Now, if that tractor comes with 9-inch tires on it, New Alice Chalmers, I said, I won't take it that way. I said, I want 13, at least 13 5s, I think it was. Okay, he says, not the way the deal was made. Well, of course, there's some guys sitting out in the outer part. His office right out in the open. It wasn't back in the room. It was right out in the open. And there's a couple of guys there, and of course I was about, well, that was right after the war. And I had been about 22, 23, and in there somewhere. I walked out there and the guys yelled at me, "Hey, kid, what are you going to do, plant rice?" Look at your tires now. Now, but I've seen tires one time on a tractor you never seen. Have you ever seen a narrow-wheel tractor in front with 6 tires on it?
No.
I seen one over in Ohio. They had the regular tires in front, 2 tires on the outside of each one of them, made 6 tires across the front of that tractor.
Yeah.
That's the only one I ever seen that way. Of course, duals now is a common thing. Mm-hmm. But they laughed at me because I wanted big tires on that tractor.
How much did that first tractor cost?
I can't tell you on that, but my first brand new Alice Chalmers combine cost me $700.
Yeah.
But I think the tractor was up in that category somewhere.
Yeah.
I really don't remember. Now I had the 3rd combine in Whitley County, so they told me. And that was an international harvester. I bought it from Craig Bombs in Huntington. It was one of those that had the bin way up in the air. It had gravity dump. It didn't have an auger that you do now. It sat up way up where it was up high enough you dumped it, opened the hatch and let it run into the truck or wagon, what you had. It was gravity dump.
So that was how wide was the head on that first combine? How many inches across?
I think it was 72.
That's pretty good size.
I'm not real sure, but now anymore, but I think it was 72. And I wasn't too happy with it because it was power takeoff. And of course, you fellas, you maybe remember Eldon Craig. I had him put a motor on it for me. And it worked a heck of a lot better with a motor. Yeah. Because, well, your power takeoff, you see, if you have real heavy stuff and down, you've got to go the same speed through it as you do when it's standing. You know what I mean? It made a big difference. You could regulate your speed. It made a big difference.
What did
now they come in with a 30-foot head.
Yeah.
Think about your difference.
Oh yeah. So how many acres were in your first farm, and how much did it cost per acre?
Gosh, I don't remember just how much it did cost. That farm there. Either one of them, I'd have to. That's about a long time.
How many acres? How many acres were in the first farm?
103.
Yeah.
Right there where I live. This is what it is.
What?
And the other up there was a 80 up there.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy where Steve Rife lives now. That was part of the grandpa's farms. But the war was going on when my uncle killed himself. He shot himself out there in the barn. I found him. And I wanted to buy it. And that was during the war, and I went into the draft board, and they said, well, the way the war's going right now, you'll be planting corn in the spring. But and you'll be in the war before you'll be planting corn in the spring. So I thought it was awful dumb to buy a farm and leave it up to my wife. We just married. And so I didn't buy it. And then the Holmes here in Columbus City bought it. And it had two big wood on it. It had real good timber on it. And he stripped all the timber off of it and then sold it to another fella. And that way I lost out on that. And I never got all three sections. But my aunt, when she died, well, I got that.
Well, looking back, what would you consider the best years of your life here in Whitley County? What do you consider the best years that you had?
The best years?
Yes.
Well, truthfully, if I had to go back and live my life over, I don't think I would change it much. I think I would make a few alterations on investing. I have invested in the Board of Trade, and I've invested in the Marketeal, and all of that. I've invested out like that. No, I can't think of any real particular thing that stands out. Just like I said, I've had a good life. Good Lord's been good to me.
Yeah.
So there's to it.
Yeah.
I should have been dead 2 or 3 times, and I haven't. Some accidents.
Yeah.
You get hit broadside with a big semi, full-speed semi, broadside. It should have killed me, it didn't. I walked away from it. Well, I had the company welding truck. I had just filled the welder with gasoline. I'd filled the truck with gasoline. I had 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline. I had 2 tanks of acetylene and 2 tanks of oxygen when he hit me. There wouldn't have been enough left of me to even find my teeth. Yeah. And I was pinned in the truck. I thought I was going to have to kick that window out on my side. He brought the passenger door clear into the gearshift, and I was in there. And I couldn't turn around to kick the window out. And I finally got where I could shove the door open enough to crawl out. And I jumped out and I run out in the yard. This was down there at 5 and 114. Rupert's yard. I run way out in the middle of Rupert's yard there before I ever stopped. Looked back and never caught fire. But if I would have caught fire, you know what it would have been. I had another time that would have killed me, and this was the first wartime tractor that Gene Moore got, and didn't have a self-starter on it. And my brother bought it, and I had cultivators and for my tractor, and he wanted to borrow my cultivators and use his tractor. So we had hay in the barn, and his tractor with my cultivators was sitting out there. So he said, well, we'd use the tractor with loose hay to pull up, you know. And of course I was used to one with a motor on, and I had to crank that, our starter, and I had to crank that, and I cranked that sucker and she took off. It was in gear. It runs throttle at this leg, clear up. It caught in the fence, the motor was cold, and died. They had to take the front wheels off to get me out. If it wouldn't have stopped in, it went right straight. With a tractor with cultivators on in front, how long do you think you would have lived? Those were 2 of my real close calls. Of course, I've had cars wrecked and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But those were too close.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your life here in Whitley County before we close our interview?
Well, let me put it this way. I'll probably think of something when I get home. Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you something was funny. I don't know if you guys believe on ghosts or not. But this happened up there. Well, my uncle still owned the farm up there. And, you know, back in those days, the headlights didn't shine much further to that door. And I was plowing up there and going east and west. And when I'd come west, I could see somebody in there shaking something back and forth. The old house was haunted. Everybody said it was haunted. People lived there at one time. She wouldn't go in the house after a night unless he was there. If he went to town for something, she'd sit on the wood pile till he come home. She wouldn't even go in the house. People were that scared of it. So when I'd come down through the field, I could see that shaking. Well, I watched it, Mr. Tractor, and make her rounds. Come back down through there again, and by cracky, that sucker was still there. Well, I made that rounds, and that was enough. So I raised the plow, and I went out and down the lane. I got down there. What do you think was happening? My uncle had chickens, and they had dead chickens, and he'd throw chickens out, and his dog was carrying back to the house. So this dead chicken, he took down there and he tied that chicken up on the bottom limbs of the tree so the dog couldn't get it. Here the wind was shaking back and forth. That's all I seen was that white chicken shaking back and forth at a haunted house. I've always remembered that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Phil. We appreciate you.
I hope that helped you out.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thank you.